Welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, if you're trying to make sense of modern education, you know it feels like, well, like trying to drink from a fire hose, right? We get constantly slammed with buzzwords, AI, XR, spatial computing, and figuring out what's hype versus what's actually a game changer. It can lead to some serious information overload. So, today, we're aiming to give you the shortcut. Our mission is to really dive deep into the launch of EON Reality's K-12 virtual campus. They've called it the world's smartest school. Big claim.
It is a very aggressive claim. And yeah, our deep dive today is based on the materials they've put out detailing what they call the third way of education. And it seems like it's not just about, sticking some tech onto the old model. It's positioned as a fundamental reconstruction. They're trying to merge those essential human bits like ethical thinking, mentorship, real connection with the sheer scale and cognitive power that digital intelligence offers, specifically using extended reality and some pretty specialized AI.
Right. So our job here is to get past the marketing buzz and really understand the mechanics. How does the system actually claim to, get beyond the limitations we've all sort of accepted as normal in schooling?
Well, the need for something different is pretty clear. If you look at the core problem driving this whole thing, is that the global economy needs people who are adaptable, who have ethical grounding, who are ready for this century. But our current education methods, they're structurally kind of obsolete. The sources directly say they're built for the industrial age.
Yeah.
Still focused on passive listening, memorization.
Even while students are living in a world that's all about interaction and increasingly spatial computing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit before we jump into their solution. What exactly were the problems with the two existing ways of learning that this third way is supposed to fix?
Yeah, we were sort of stuck in this binary choice, weren't we? On one hand, you've got the traditional physical classroom. Its strength, human connection, definitely, that sense of community, getting immediate feedback from a teacher. But it's fundamentally limited, right, by geography, by cost, and maybe the biggest issue, huge inequality in access and quality, depending on, where you happen to live.
And the flip side of that coin, the option that could scale, was the traditional online course.
Precisely. That model gives you scale, sure, but often at the expense of quality and real engagement. We all saw that explosion during the pandemic, right? Students basically just consuming flat content, watching a video, reading a PDF, often feeling isolated, passive.
And frankly, pretty vulnerable academically. I know people who really struggled making that shift because the main interaction was just watching.
Yeah. So when you look at that binary physical but limited, or scalable but often shallow, it becomes pretty clear that neither one really prepares students for a future that's going to be shaped by AI, automation, and the need for complex applied problem solving.
That seems to be the core argument. This third way is trying to be the boat hand solution. It's aiming for a single intelligent learning environment that gives you that emotional feeling of presence, like you're in the lesson.
Right, that immersion.
Combined with the kind of personalization and cognitive backup that only large-scale AI can really deliver.
Exactly. It's about unifying those strengths.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, moving from the theory to the actual experience. Let's talk about the learning environment itself. How do students actually shift from just consuming information to actively experiencing it?
The whole approach seems built around immersion. Learning kicks off inside these 3D exploration labs. And the foundation for this is what they're claiming is the world's largest educational XR laboratory. Apparently, it contains this huge collection of over 36 million interactive 3D and extended reality assets.
36 million. Okay, that scale is just wow. But hold on, that raises a pretty big question for me. If you have that much content, potentially created by many different sources, how do you maintain educational quality and rigor across all 36 million of those things? Doesn't that volume risk, content fatigue or just wildly variable quality?
That's a really critical point. The materials suggest the rigor isn't just about vetting the assets initially, but how they're applied. They're framed as interactive scenarios, not just static 3D models you look at. So we're talking about students learning, say, molecular physics by literally walking through an atom structure, or understanding historical events by standing inside a recreation of an ancient city, and then actually interacting with things in that environment.
Got it. So the 3D space provides the experience, but just wandering around isn't learning. You need guidance, which brings us straight to the personalization layer, these brainy AI mentors.
Yes. And the key thing they emphasize is these aren't just simple Q&A bots. They're described as memory-based, empathetic Socratic guides. And crucially, one is paired with every single student. across every subject they're learning.
That memory function sounds like the critical technical piece, doesn't it? If the AI actually remembers I bombed quadratic equations last week, it presumably changes how it introduces, say, calculus concepts this week.
Absolutely. That's the idea. The mentor maintains this ongoing memory of the student's progress, where they hit roadblocks, even their learning style, across different sessions. And, going back to your point about potential issues, you challenged the term empathetic earlier. If human teachers sometimes struggle with consistent empathy, how can an algorithm really achieve that?
Yeah, that's the core of it for me. What does empathetic actually mean when we're talking about AI?
Well, they define it functionally. The AI uses Socratic dialogue, so it asks probing questions rather than just spitting out answers to help develop critical thinking. The empathy part, as they describe it, is the system's ability to recognize frustration or confusion, maybe based on the student's response patterns or hesitation times,
Okay.
and then immediately adjust its teaching method or maybe dial back the difficulty. It adapts to the student's style, offering personalized practice and real-time feedback.
Mhm.
And it's all designed to optimize something they call knowledge transfer efficiency, KTE.
KTE. Okay, let's focus on that for a second. That sounds like more than just a grade. It sounds like it's the core metric driving the whole system's pacing.
That's exactly how it's positioned. Think of KTE less like a final grade and more like a real-time measure of cognitive friction. Is the student getting it smoothly? It tracks how efficiently knowledge moves from just being introduced to being understood deeply to being applied and then, critically, sticking around long-term, retained. So a low KTE score signals that the student's hitting roadblocks, or maybe the current teaching approach just isn't working for them.
And the AI uses that KTE data to decide what happens next.
Precisely. It uses those insights to constantly suggest, okay, maybe you need to review this concept or maybe explore this related idea or, hey, you've nailed this, let's move on. It's basically a mechanism trying to eliminate wasted learning time. Okay, so if we connect that KDE measurement and all the interactive 3D learning, well, once a student has gone through the experience in the AI guidance, we hit that massive challenge in digital education. Integrity. How do you actually ensure authentic learning happen, especially at a global scale? And with AI tools potentially making it easier than ever to cheat, this really brings up the fundamental question of how you stop educational fraud.
Right. And that seems to be the whole point of their integrity suite, which, based on the description, sounds like a huge conceptual jump from just, running essays through a plagiarism checker after the fact. This sounds like it's built to proactively ensure mastery.
It really seems to be the anchor for the whole system's credibility. The Integrity Suite leads up to this rigorous try-exam format. They call it the 3 proofs of mastery. A student basically has to pass this gauntlet to get certified in a subject, demonstrating their knowledge in 3 different but complementary ways. And it's all verified by AI.
Okay, the first 2 proofs sound relatively familiar, right? There's an oral exam having to verbally explain and defend concepts, and a written exam focusing on structured reasoning, reflection.
Correct. But it's the third one that feels genuinely new, the XR exam. This is described as pure applied problem solving, but done inside the virtual world. So for instance, if you're studying engineering, the XR exam might literally require you to go into the virtual lab and design, build, and then stress test a bridge structure under certain conditions.
You really can't fake that, can you? That's performance-based. You either apply the physics correctly in the simulation and the bridge holds, or it doesn't.
Exactly. That's the idea. And the crucial step is that the results from all 3 proofs, the verbal, the written, and this applied XR performance, are verified by AI and then logged to something called the Integrity Ledger.
Okay, for those of us maybe less familiar with things like crypto, when you say blockchain secured ledger, what does that practically mean for like a student or their parents?
It essentially means the academic record becomes tamper-proof. It's verified by the network itself, not just by the school. So down the line, a future employer or university registrar wouldn't necessarily need to call the high school to verify every single course or skill. It creates this transparent, portable record of proven mastery that's very hard to compromise, even if someone tries using sophisticated AI to cheat on, say, the written part.
And that transparency works internally too, right?
Yeah,
Going back to that KTE analytics dashboard you mentioned for teachers and parents.
absolutely. That dashboard seems designed to completely shift the focus of accountability. Traditional education often measures inputs, right? How many hours did you spend studying? How many pages did you read? The KTE dashboard is all about measuring outcomes. It tracks the student's learning velocity. How fast and effectively are they actually moving knowledge from introduction to long-term retention? This gives teachers and parents this real-time, actionable view of exactly where the student is flying and where they're hitting those points of friction.
So if a student puts in 3 hours on a math topic, but their KTE score for that topic barely moves, the system flags that the time spent isn't actually translating into mastery.
That's the concept. It aims to move us past that old idea that just putting in seat time automatically equals learning.
Now let's talk about the sheer scope here. This platform isn't just delivering the standard curriculum we're used to. It sounds like it's offering a totally different volume of knowledge to get students ready for these verified outcomes.
The scale's pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
The platform apparently offers over 600 courses,
Yeah.
which if you compare it to a typical high school curriculum of maybe 100, 150 courses.
That's like 3 times more comprehensive.
Exactly. And this massive expansion seems structured around 3 really interesting pillars that go way beyond just standard academic subjects.
Okay, let's take pillar 1 first, the focus on career relevance, career connection.
Right. This is handled through something called the Career Compass system. And it seems designed to directly tackle that classic student question. Seriously, when am I ever going to use this?
Okay.
So every single course, maybe even individual lessons, explicitly links what you're learning to potential future job pathways, the skills needed for those jobs, and even estimated income opportunities. Today's geometry lesson gets immediately tied to a future in architecture or maybe game design.
Interesting. Then you've got pillar 2, innovation, through what they call wealth weaver pathways. This sounds like it's trying to bake in entrepreneurial thinking much earlier.
Yeah, it looks like making entrepreneurship a continuous thread right from K through 12. The materials describe it starting with simple invention challenges in kindergarten, just building basic problem-solving skills and scaling all the way up to high school seniors, developing actual investor-ready startup pitches, presenting them inside virtual XR incubators. It's like built-in business literacy from the start, teaching kids how to create value, not just consume information.
And finally, pillar 3. This one speaks directly to the ethical side of things for the next generation, wisdom through the 21st century enrichment sphere.
This sphere seems focused squarely on preparing students to navigate the AI age responsibly. It's not just about technical skills. It includes comprehensive programs in things like environmental sustainability, digital citizenship and AI ethics, and even philosophy and global thinking. The underlying idea seems to be balancing all this incredible new tech capability with solid ethical reasoning.
And because this whole thing is designed for global use, the curriculum apparently lines up with all the major international standards, U.S. Common Core, UK levels, Singapore's MOE, the IB program. Plus, through partnerships, it enables students to potentially earn dual diplomas recognized worldwide, sort of future-proofing their credentials wherever they go.
So if we step back and try to synthesize all this, what the EON K-12 virtual campus seems to represent is a pretty fundamental shift. It's trying to move learning away from being passive, standardized, and let's face it, often compromised in terms of integrity, towards a model that's immersive, deeply personalized, thanks to that memory-based AI mentorship working at scale. And this is key, rigorously verified through that try-exam process in the ledger. It really is trying to deliver that both-and solution we talked about earlier, getting the human depth and connection we need alongside the scale and cognitive precision that the modern world demands.
And importantly for you, listening to this, it's worth noting this isn't necessarily positioned as some super expensive, exclusive system only available with high-end gear. The platform runs through something called EON Universal, which means cross-device compatibility is apparently built in. You can get the full experience on dedicated XR headsets, sure, but also on standard desktops, tablets, even just through a web browser. And this isn't coming out of nowhere. It's built on EON's existing work, using similar tech in higher education and industry, just now extending it down into K-12.
It points towards a potential shift in trust, too. Maybe moving from implicitly trusting institutions based on reputation towards trusting decentralized, verifiable data about what someone actually knows and can do.
Which leads us perfectly into our final provocative thought for you to chew on. If this kind of verified integrity ledger, this blockchain record of proven skills actually becomes a global standard, maybe even eventually replacing generalized transcripts, how might future employers or universities evaluate candidates? They wouldn't just be looking at a GPA or a single test score. They could potentially see a transparent, secured record of very specific demonstrated skills like the literal pass-fail result of your applied problem solving in virtual worlds from that XR exam. What does genuine mastery actually look like when it's documented down to that granular, applied skill level? And how might that change the game, maybe even level the playing field globally? Something to think about.